I never believed in ghosts, spirits, hauntings, curses. They were the stuff of bad movies and overactive imaginations. At least, that's what I thought until last year. Until the night I stepped into that cursed house. It all started innocently enough. My best friend Mark and I had heard about an old abandoned mansion on the outskirts of town, rumored to be haunted. We were bored, restless, and a little drunk. A perfect recipe for bad decisions. "Come on, it'll be fun," Mark had said, his eyes gleaming with mischief. "Just think of the stories we can tell." And so, with a flashlight and a couple of beers in our backpacks, we set off. The night was unnaturally still, the moon a mere sliver in the sky. The mansion, once grand, now stood in ruins, its windows shattered, its walls crumbling. Vines and moss crept over every surface, nature reclaiming what humanity had abandoned. As we approached, the air grew colder. I shrugged off the chill, attributing it to the night air. The front door hung loosely on its hinges, creaking ominously as we pushed it open. Inside, the darkness swallowed us whole. Mark clicked on his flashlight, the beam piercing the inky blackness. The interior was a scene of decay. Furniture lay in splintered heaps, wallpaper peeled in long strips, and a thick layer of dust covered everything. The air was thick with the stench of mold and something else, something metallic and faintly sweet. Blood. Mark's enthusiasm was infectious, though. He bounded ahead, exploring rooms, cracking jokes, making fun of the eerie atmosphere. "Look at this place. It's like a horror movie set," he laughed. I forced a smile, but unease gnawed at me. I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of the wind seemed amplified, sinister. We came to a grand staircase, its banister cracked and splintered. "Let's check upstairs," Mark suggested. Reluctantly, I followed him. The second floor was even worse than the first. The walls were smeared with dark stains, and the air was thick with decay. We found a long corridor lined with doors. Most were locked or jammed shut, but one, at the very end, stood ajar. Mark, ever the daredevil, pushed it open. The room beyond was large, with a high, vaulted ceiling. Moonlight streamed in through a broken window, illuminating a massive, ornate bed draped in tattered curtains. A dusty mirror hung on one wall, its surface marred with age. In the corner, a fireplace stood cold and empty, its mantel adorned with cobweb-covered trinkets. But what drew our attention was the diary lying open on the bed. Mark picked it up, blowing off the dust. "Check this out," he said, flipping through the yellowed pages. "Looks like it belonged to someone named Eliza." He began reading aloud. The entries started innocuously enough: musings on daily life, descriptions of the house, mentions of a husband and child. But as he read on, the tone grew darker. Eliza wrote of strange noises at night, of shadows moving on their own, of a presence she couldn't see but could feel watching her. The final entry was hastily scrawled, the handwriting erratic. It spoke of her husband's sudden, violent death, of her child's disappearance, of her growing madness. The last line sent chills down my spine. I know the truth now. The house is alive. It feeds on us. And I am its next meal. Mark chuckled nervously, but I could see the fear in his eyes. "Creepy, huh?" I nodded, unable to speak. The air in the room seemed to thicken, pressing in on us. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from downstairs. We both jumped, dropping the diary. "What was that?" Mark whispered, his bravado gone. "Probably just the wind," I said, though I didn't believe it myself. "Let's go check it out." We made our way back down the staircase, our footsteps echoing in the silence. The ground floor was as we'd left it, but the front door, which we had left open, was now shut tight. Mark tried the handle, but it wouldn't budge. "That's weird. It's like it's locked from the outside." Panic began to set in. We were trapped. The flashlight flickered, casting erratic shadows on the walls. "Let's find another way out," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. We searched the house, finding every door sealed, every window barred. The temperature continued to drop, our breath visible in the freezing air. The house groaned and creaked around us, as if it were alive, shifting and moving. In the kitchen, we found a cellar door. Maybe there's a way out through the basement, Mark suggested. We descended the narrow, creaking stairs into the darkness below. The flashlight flickered and died. Damn it! Mark cursed, banging it against his palm. In the pitch black, our breathing sounded loud and ragged. I fumbled for my lighter, the small flame casting a feeble glow. The basement was a maze of old furniture, rusted tools, and decaying boxes. The smell of rot was overpowering. As we moved deeper into the cellar, the sense of being watched grew stronger. The lighter's flame sputtered, and shadows danced on the walls, twisting into grotesque shapes. A cold draft brushed past us, carrying with it a whisper, barely audible. "Help me." I froze, the hairs on the back of my neck standing up. "Did you hear that?" I whispered. Mark nodded, his face pale in the dim light. "Let's get out of here." We turned to leave, but the way back was gone. The cellar had changed, the path we had taken now blocked by a solid wall. Panic surged through me. This isn't possible. Houses don't just change like this. Mark grabbed my arm, his grip tight. We need to stay calm. There has to be another way out. We pressed on, searching for an exit, but the cellar seemed to stretch on forever, twisting and turning in impossible ways. The whispers grew louder, more insistent. "Help me. Join us." At last, we stumbled upon a door, old and rotting. We pushed it open and found ourselves back in the grand room where we'd found the diary. But something was different. The air was heavier, the darkness deeper. The bed was no longer empty. A figure lay there, skeletal and decayed, its hollow eyes staring at us. The diary was clutched in its bony hands. Mark backed away, but I was rooted to the spot, unable to look away from the horrific sight. The figure's jaw moved, and a voice, dry and cracked, filled the room. "You should not have come here. Now you belong to the house." The walls began to close in, the ceiling lowering, the room shrinking around us. Mark screamed, dropping to his knees, clutching his head. "It's in my mind. It's in my mind." I felt it too, a pressure building in my skull, a voice whispering terrible things. The house was alive, and it was feeding on our fear, our despair. Desperate, I lunged for the fireplace, grabbing one of the iron pokers. With a strength I didn't know I had, I swung it at the figure on the bed. The bones shattered, the diary falling to the floor, its pages fluttering like dying birds. The house screamed, a sound of pure rage and pain. The walls stopped moving, the pressure in my head lessening. Mark looked up, his eyes wild. "We need to destroy it." The diary. It's the heart of the house. With trembling hands, I picked up the diary and threw it into the fireplace. The flames roared to life, consuming the pages. The house shuddered, cracks spreading across the walls, the floor buckling. "We have to get out, now," Mark shouted. We ran, the house collapsing around us, beams falling, the ceiling caving in. We reached the front door just as the house gave one final, deafening groan. The door burst open, and we stumbled out into the night, gasping for breath. Behind us, the mansion crumbled into a heap of rubble, a cloud of dust rising into the air. We stood there, shaking, staring at the ruins. The whispers were gone, the oppressive presence lifted. We never spoke of that night again. We moved on with our lives, trying to forget the horrors we'd witnessed. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear the whispers, faint and distant. The house may be gone, but its curse lingers. It feeds on fear, on darkness, and it will never truly die. And I know, deep down, that one day it will come for me again.